Hello, welcome to Six Train Therapy. I'm DJ Mayday.
And I'm Professor S, your psychotherapist to the stars.
That's right, to the stars. And today we're going to do a cultural food exchange. We did this one time with beef patties. Remember that?
That's right, beef patties. And what else? Was it just the beef patties?
I think it was just the beef patties and the soda, the ting, and the bun and cheese.
The bun and cheese.
And we just had a fun time doing it. And we were kind of hungry today, so we decided to do it again. This time we're going to cross the streams, the cultural streams here again. But kind of really it's not a crossing of the streams, as you'll see from some of the information.
Variations on
a
spin. Some of the spin on each other.
So if you would like to represent.
So, yes, I'll talk about my plate. Can they see the plates?
Yes, they can see it.
So this is
called
curry goat and rice with steamed cabbage. It is a staple of Jamaican food, of Jamaican cuisine. My godmother was Jamaican, and so she would make this for folks, but it just became one of my comfort foods. And this is curry goat.
Bling. And what I have here is MOFONGO. MOFONGO is fried plantain smashed, and it can be mixed with chicken, beef, shrimp, seafood, all kinds of things. And what we have today is MOFONGO con pollo. So it's MOFONGO plantains with chicken. So the way plantains are made, they're made in this thing. And this is called a pilon. So this is where typically...
in English, it's mort and pestle.
Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know how to English name. Yeah. So it's what they use to mash the plantains.
Mash up the plantain.
Now, the interesting thing is when I was doing the research, they were saying this comes from Africa. The plantain was brought to the islands from Africa. Mm-hmm. The food is a variation of something called fufu, which is a kind of a doughy substance they eat with saucy foods. And it's really good. I don't know if you ever see it. They usually generally eat it with their hands, and it looks really good. I haven't tried it yet. Maybe we got to do one of those on African foods.
Oh, okay.
So it's...
Not familiar, other than Ethiopian.
So this is a variation on that, on fufu via the Caribbean. Now, it's disputed who invented it, right? There's drama. Like always, whenever you involve Spanish people, there's drama. So Puerto Ricans say they invented it. That was my understanding. I'm Puerto Rican. And Dominicans say they invented it. Mm-hmm. Now, right now, as far as in New York City, Dominicans got it a lock, and I'll give them that. But historically, in my lifetime, we've always eaten it as well.
Okay.
So, you know what? We won the baseball game this year. I'll let you have. I'll let y'all have that.
So let me tell you a little bit about curry. So curry goes as far back as, in terms of what's out there, is 1500. The Portuguese first venturing into India, Southeast Asia, particularly in India, and it predates British colonialism. So you had the British that were in India for about 400 years, and they took the curry to the islands, and then that's where it became popular in the Jamaican culture and in the Caribbean as a whole, but in Jamaica in particular. The British called it curry, but in India they called it curry, but it became curry through the British, and curry is a sauce. So that's where that comes from. And Muslim people can eat goat because they don't eat pork. And Hindus can eat goat because they don't eat beef. So it fits, cultural, religious needs.
A convergence of convenience, sort of.
A convergence of convenience.
I like that.
Who knew?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So that's the origins of curry.
Oh, cool.
Me want to yam the food though.
I don't know
which translates means I want to eat.
Exactly. So let's dig in a little bit. I'm gonna start here, and then
I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna bring my plate closer to me.
I can't because of the laptop. But I'm just gonna take a little taste.
Well, maybe you could put the plates in the middle, and then I'll put.
Oh my God. That's way better than I even thought it was going to be.
So let's see. And the thing is, with both foods, they're very filling,
Oh my God, yeah. Like,
and so they become staples of the culture.
I can speak for
The thing with goat, though, this piece doesn't have bones, but there's a lot of bones in curry goat, in goat. So unless you purchase, in fact, I have some in the freezer, some goat. I don't think it has bones in it, but sometimes you have to separate the meat from the bone, and there are a lot of people that will suck the bone because of the gristle, because
And
the
the
flavor
marrow.
in the gristle is marrow.
gristle is not marrow, is it? I thought gristle was gristle, grease,
You
fat,
say potato, I say potato.
Grease. Okay, all
It is
right.
gristle. What do you call it?
Bone
what?
marrow.
Bone marrow is gristle. I guess I've heard of gristle in England and through my Bayesian family. Oh, by the way, my family's from Barbados, so Barbados is not really known for curry goat. Their dish is flying fish, which is the
Oh, we should.
watch your elbow, man. Your elbow in me food, in me
Sorry, man.
plates.
Sorry, man. I'm trying to get the mofongo.
God Almighty, is this chicken?
Oh, try it. Try it. Make sure you get some sauce in that, motherfucker. Can I try some of that?
Absolutely.
Well, my thing is, and I cook a little, so I know the difference. Like, if you let's say you make a stew out of just white meat, chicken, it's not gonna have that same flavor as if you had
Excuse me, everybody.
you had bone actually in the stew, because there's an added flavor that comes from the bone marrow
Right.
that's absent in just like regular breast meat. So I think the bone thing is not for me anyway. To my understanding, it's not about laziness, not taking out the bone. The bone actually adds flavor. So that's what that's.
I wonder what other cultures use the bone. I think I've seen it in some Italian
Asian,
meals.
Asians,
Okay.
French. Asians use bone all. They have a dish where they split the. I've seen it on TikTok anyway, where they split the bone diagonally, and they just cook like a big femur bone with the marrow showing, just so they could eat it. It was definitely a delicacy. Oh, that's good. That's some good curry.
Could be a little warmer,
Yeah,
but
well,
you guys don't even know if it's warm or cold.
right. I shouldn't have told them that, but whatever. But the interesting thing about this is that the many cultures that kind of had to come together for this kind of dish to even be made, and it got me thinking about a lot of things. Like, what else in the world would we not have if it wasn't for that, again, convergence of culture, right?
And food brings people together.
Yeah. Like, there was no spaghetti and sauce before, 1492, right? Well, even a little after that, because tomatoes was a product of the New World.
Oh.
So that didn't even enter into Italian cuisine until after 1492, when after the whole Christopher Columbus raping of the New World. But we're not going to talk about old shit right now. But anyway, that's a big thing, that fact. And another aspect, if Asian culture invented the pasta as we know
The
it.
noodle. Oh,
Yeah.
the pasta.
The noodle as we know it. So again, another thing from another culture kind of being adopted by another.
Infused.
And there's also now tacos. We know tacos strictly as being Mexican. But
But is there a but?
there is a but. But see, you got to go there. The style in which tacos are made were based on Mediterranean cooking. So there was, the pita with the meat and the sauce all kind of came from the Mediterranean. When that culture, a lot of Greeks went to Mexico and they passed that on to them.
Oh,
And
yeah.
instead
Wow.
of using flour, they used corn tortillas. I never knew this, but again, convergence of cultures, doing the research, you kind of learn.
And that's the other thing too, especially when I recently made lasagna,
Which was
And,
good.
thank you. And food is also influenced by what is in that part of the country,
Right.
So if you have more of a certain kind of cheese in that area, let's say of Italy, and there's another kind of cheese in the southern part, that is going to influence your cuisine. So, in addition to regional differences, there's also as you were mentioning, foods that come across waters and oceans, where in terms of like the British bringing over curry, it came from India, British, the Caribbean, with the common denominator that India and the Caribbean islands were under British rule. So the politics of food, it's kind of interesting.
One more thing, and this is more commonly known, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway.
We're talking way too much. I need to eat.
So the Swiss are renowned for their chocolate, right? Chocolate is kind of like their thing. Swiss chocolate. Oh, it's like an elevated kind of art form in it in some of the, but
it's not M&Ms.
Yeah, it's definitely not M&Ms.
Better quality.
But it's like truffles and like all kinds of foofy things. But chocolate comes from, again, the New World, and specifically the Aztecs. So these are things, again, cultural convergences that actually mean something. So like when, even when you go to your local Chinese, restaurant, and something personal for me, I'm just going to throw this out there. When I was a kid, there was places all over the Bronx. They were called Chino Cubano restaurants. They were Chinese restaurants. They kind of seemed like Chinese restaurants, but they were actually Cuban Spanish food and Chinese food. You don't see them that much anymore. I think there's only a couple left in the Bronx, but it turns out there was a huge Asian migration to Cuba at one point. Okay. And then when Fidel Castro took over, they all fled to the United States. So in the 50s, it led to this emergence of cultural restaurants called, we call them, I hope I'm not like saying it wrong, but that's what we call them, Chino Cubano restaurants, the Chinese Cuban restaurants. So
sounds right.
Yeah, so it's like even at that late date, and I'm sure if you keep looking, there are modern, again, cultural convergences happening as we speak. You just got to pay attention to it. We call them now fusion restaurants and fusion foods, but it was already happening all along, and this is a small part of it.
Okay. May I?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you. My goodness.
I'm gonna eat.
Yeah, because I've been eating. And yeah, since I don't know enough about Jamaican cuisine, there was also a large Chinese population that was in Jamaica. Huge.
Actually, when I was there, I met a few.
So that is the.
Speaking heavy patois, it's just not something you're used to, but it was interesting. Wow, that's good. The goat.
And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of this food, came from the land. So it's a cheap form of food that fills you up. So you can continue to work the fields, farms back in the day. And that's what this is.
Another thing that I kind of learned doing the research, well, it's research / I've heard it before, that in a lot of these Caribbean islands, they weren't getting 3 square American meals a day. They were getting 1 meal a day.
Yeah.
Right? They would wake up, if they were lucky, they had coffee and a piece of bread. But their day was completely filled with, laborious and arduous work. So they would get 1 meal, and their 1 meal had to kind of sustain them for that whole day, or at least carry over to the next day. So, and that would be these really hearty meals. So,
and that's also the connection too between Puerto Rico and, let's say, Barbados, the rest of the Caribbean, Jamaica, is that this was usually people that worked the fields, whether sugarcane, tobacco, or any of these other products, because these parts of the world were colonized.
Right, and you had to work the whole day, like from sun up to sundown, one way or the other, whether you were a migrant worker, slave, or whatever, to actually, running your own lands. You know what I mean? You were working from sun up to sundown. So, like, your time to eat was, you gotta get your energy, get up,
and get back, eat, and get back out there.
Get some sleep and get back out there. So it was like a 1 meal a day kind of rule, and it worked for them.
And this food works for me. Let me tell you. MOFONGO.
MOFONGO. That's good, right?
So this is a cultural exchange around food, and actually, what is interesting, what's going on here is I never let anybody eat at the same plate as I do, unless they take the food first out of the plate, put it on their plate, and then I'll eat it. But we don't go back and forth. That's just my own little quirk.
That's interesting that you say that.
But since this is my brother here from another mother, we can do it.
That's interesting you say that. So Asian families, specifically Chinese families, they eat together, open plates.
Right.
You know what I mean? The only reason they would have a plate is just to not spill anything on themselves. But they would reach into each other's plates and eat all the time.
How many cultures that is so?
Huh?
Many cultures
Is it?
do that.
I don't.
Definitely Ethiopian cultures.
Okay. So it's in other cultures. Maybe it's just a stern American style that don't like that. They gotta get their own.
The British, as a rule, they don't. I mean, when I grew up, that was not something that was common. So you had your own plate. I knew growing up in a Caribbean household, it wasn't the norm to folks to go into each other's plates. You make your plate. But a lot of times the women make the plates for the men, and there's really no need to go into somebody else's plate because your plate is full, or you get up and you get your food, or the person says, "Steven, you want some more peas and rice?" And of course I say yes, and that's how it goes. So it wasn't common in terms of how I was raised. The British, the Barbadian, and this is all like colonial. They were all colonially owned by the British, so I think there's some habits, going into like religion, having the similar religious
passed on
to the colonized people.
So there's this funny thing. So I don't remember what it was for. I think it was I don't know if it was my mother's birthday or my brother's birthday. But anyway, I take them all out. We all go down to Chinatown, and I said, let's have a family style dinner. And I don't think they understood what I was talking about. So I was like, no, we order one because one plate is huge, and then we can all share from it.
Right.
So my brother just couldn't wrap his head around it. He just couldn't wrap his head around it. So he ordered food for himself. So he ordered a rice for himself. He ordered meat for himself. He ordered a vegetable for himself. I'm like, bro, these plates are big. These are not normal plates. These are like plates for a whole family.
Did he share his with the whole
family?
family?
He had no choice.
Okay.
But he wound up, he's like, oh, that's mine. And that's mine. I was like, bro, just put it on the table. The concept was just eluded him.
That's interesting. But did you guys grow up in the same household, right?
Yeah, of course. We grew up fighting for food. But we didn't do necessarily family style either. We just, my mom served us and we just kind of ate what she gave us.
Right.
She divided it up and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Western style, you know what I mean? Like the way, Americans or Europeans would do it. I'm sorry I'm reaching over your face.
We're doing a cultural exchange, so clearly we will reach over each other and into each other's plates. I think we should have a sip of something to drink, don't you?
Why? That is a great idea.
That's a great idea. So this is DG Jamaican pineapple soda. Again, it's another kind of staple of Jamaican cuisine. And what do you have?
And this is the same brand, DG Jamaican cream soda. So this is banging. Whoa.
So what you looking at?
I'm going to be ready to take a nap after this, bro.
I can finish both of these meals, let me tell you, with no problem. They're absolutely delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because a lot of foods in the Caribbean do have African roots. It's one of those things, I think, when you
even American soul food.
Yeah, I think when you think of some of the things that did make it from Africa, you look at some of the foods, but also the drums, the music, and also the love of dance. All that is definitely,
African. I mean, that's a whole other thing. But I've heard people who analyze music and say that African music has like an extra beat in it that Western music doesn't have. An extra, rhythm in it that European music doesn't necessarily have. It's just a structure that's different. It's not bad. One's better than the other, but it's just different, and it shows up in different ways. It's like James Brown. His on the one. How it's kind of his thing. Like he goes on the one. So that's like the extra beat that African music has. So it's It's
the flavor.
It's the flavor.
Just as we are sampling the flavor of our cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I think
we're done with this part, I guess, right?
Well, yeah, we're definitely done with this part.
It's a wrap. We want to thank you for joining us on this part of 6 Train Therapy.
And thank you for enjoying.
Come on now, get it together.
Let me finish what I was saying. Thank you for joining us on our Convergence of Culture with food.
Curry Golden Rice and Mofongo.
This is 6 Train Therapy. I'm DJ Mayday.
And I'm Steve. Ooh, Professor.
Wow.
Well, Professor S. S is for Steven. We can say that. I can say that. Comment, subscribe, and
like.
Have a good one.
Peace. I'm gonna put this damn bone in my mouth over here. I didn't want to put a whole bone in my mouth. Yeah, I am. But I accidentally put a bone in my mouth, and I was like, I had to spit it off on camera.